Welcome everyone, I'm Untitled the Hero, and today we're gonna talk about the open world action adventure game Assassin's Creed Revelations. It's the fourth game in its series and is the closing act of Ezio Auditore's life, coupled with the short film Embers, which I recommend you watch after playing the game. The game was developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. The game was released for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 and PC in November and December of 2011. The game is playable on Xbox One as well thanks to its backwards compatibility, and otherwise it's also playable on both Xbox One and PlayStation 4 as a part of the Ezio collection, about which we'll have to talk another time if ever. As always, the game follows two storylines that intervene with each other from time to time. The modern day story follows Desmond Miles, who fell into a coma after the events surrounding Brotherhood's ending. Here, he was put into the Animus to prevent damage to him, and the Animus gets locked into safe mode. This is when he finds himself on the creatively named Animus Island, with fellow Ezio descendant, Subject 16. 16 tells him what's going on and how he can get out of the coma, which is by, you guessed it, living through more of Ezio's memories. The historical storyline, as I've pointed it out at least twice now, follows Ezio Auditore da Firenze. This game's historical part starts 4 years after Brotherhood's ends, with Ezio searching for Altair ibn Lahat's library hidden in Masyaf. But he isn't the only one searching for it, as the Byzantine Templars also want the knowledge for themselves. Searching for the means of getting into the library leads Ezio to Constantinople, and to Yusuf Tazim da Istanbul, who helps him in the race against the Templars to get into the library. Constantinople is your playground, and now with all new tricks. The city is littered with ziplines and flower pots to use your all-new hook blade on. Now if you don't get what a hook blade is, let's hear Yusuf's explanation.
The standard Ottoman hook blade has two parts, you see. The hook and the blade, so you can use one or the other. An elegant design.
You also get a better bomb throwing mechanic, and crafting also gets introduced into the game, but let's go one step at a time. First, bomb throwing. Starting with this game, you can equip not one, but two weapons at once, whether the secondary items be things like throwing knives, the aforementioned bombs, or the hidden gun. You can also throw bombs three ways: under your feet just by pressing the action button, looking onto an enemy and throwing it at them, or by holding the action button. You can enter a free throw mode where you can aim your throws. To move on to crafting, you can make bombs at crafting tables from ingredients you pick up along the way. You can make 3 flavors of bombs, these flavors being lethal, tactical and diversion. You can carry 3 of each type on your person at all times. Crafting them is simple. You choose which ingredients you want to use and then you just press craft. If you're not sure about the recipe you cooked up, you can always give them a try in a simulation without using up your ingredients. But wait, there's more! Not only do assassin recruits return in this game, making for another mechanic that returns from Brotherhood that got potentially reined in 3 depending on your preferences, and not called parkour, but it also has a twist that has yet to return. Well, along with the whole training people to become assassins thing, but I digress. So what's this thing that I'm talking about? It is no less than a pretty alright tower defense minigame that I can only access in the mission where it gets introduced because for whatever reason, the Templars never attack my dance. Now, I won't pretend to be an expert on tower defense games because, to be honest, they're not my cup of tea, but I did find this minigame to be quite refreshing. That one time I actually got to play it in a mission in any of my 5 or 6 playthroughs. It's what you'd expect from something that can be labeled as tower defense. You have a couple of different unit types, and the better the unit, the more points they cost. You get points every once in a while and for kills. Enemies come in waves and each wave is harder than the other. And once you finish the set of waves, you get rewarded with a new unit money, and in this game's case, also some crafting ingredients. Another pretty big addition, which is there both to move the modern days some and to spice the gameplay up a bit, are the first-person puzzle platforming segments called Desmond's Journey, where Desmond talks about his life while you do first-person platforming. The game also introduces stalkers, who are like Brotherhood's thieves from the wilderness, only they are much easier to kill because there's only one of them. Other minor changes that I've noticed are things like being able to rob people whilst fighting them, which replaces the taunt button, and how it's harder to stay incognito thanks to the lowered rates at which you can lower your notoriety. The game's graphics still hold up rather well. It won't blow your mind by any means, but it does its job and it does it good. Jesper Kid returns to provide Ezio's life with some pretty fine tunes. But this time he isn't alone. This time he's accompanied by Lorne Balfe. I hope I pronounced that right, in making the game's soundtrack, and let me tell you, the game's soundtrack is not something to sleep over. So, in conclusion, how do I feel about Assassin's Creed Revelations? Well, to be quite honest, after my first playthrough I was a bit disappointed with the game, because I didn't understand the better half of why Ezio is doing this the way he is. But after replaying the game a couple of times and watching Embers, I started to get the game and I started to like it. If anything, my only real complaint off the top of my head is that the game feels shorter than pretty much any other major game in the series. But I'm not sure if it's actually shorter or if it's just me. But then, what rating would I give this game? Well, I believe it deserves a 9 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this video, and with that, goodbye.